1 day of playing the violin. 1 month of playing the violin. 1 year of playing the violin. Why isn't this getting any better? So, you've decided to learn the violin. A questionable decision to be sure, but without the bright-eyed optimism of people like you, I wouldn't have a job. So here are 5 tips for violin beginners to make the most amount of progress in their first year. Tip number 1, listen to violin music a lot, especially the music you're learning. So if you didn't grow up surrounded by classical music like I did, this one might be a little bit difficult. Especially if you're an adult, your taste in music is pretty much set. And so making yourself listen to classical music on a regular basis might seem to be a bit of a chore. However, if you want to learn how to play the violin well, you're not only going to need familiarity with the music that you're learning, but also what good violin playing sounds like generally. I've had my gripes with them before, but the Suzuki method is great on this. They emphasize learning music by listening, and so have multiple recordings of their music books. So if you're studying the Suzuki method and/or are learning from the Suzuki books, you have no excuse not to be listening to recordings of the music that you're learning. But even outside of that, you should also be listening to great violinists play great violin music. If you're not sure where to start, I've made a playlist that's in the description below of some of the greatest violin repertoire. So if you weren't sure what to start listening to, you can start there. But also I highly suggest asking your private teacher for recommendations on what to listen to. Which brings me to point number 2, make sure you have a private teacher. While it's not impossible to learn the basics of violin playing on your own, the chance you will do so properly is incredibly low. And even if you do, you won't progress much beyond those basics. In my long experience teaching violin, I've only encountered 3 people that have successfully figured out the basics of violin playing. And 2 of them were French. Make of that what you will. Some very common mistakes of students that try to learn without teachers are holding the bow like this, which reduces necessary flexibility within the fingers, or moving the bow from the shoulder instead of the elbow, which ruins clean bowing, or letting the left wrist come in too far, which limits how well you can place your fingers onto the strings. If any of these mistakes look a little bit familiar to you, then this is your sign to get a private teacher. And if you don't recognize yourself making any of these mistakes, then trust me, there are many more I didn't mention. You need a teacher as well. Now, where to find a private teacher? The best place to look for beginning violin students would be local Suzuki programs, private violin studios, and even violin shops. And if you can't find anything like that, then online lessons are a really great alternative. Me and my team have taught many beginners from scratch purely online, and all of them play with solid technique. So if you can't find a local teacher, or you just would like to study with me or somebody at Murphy Music Academy, then shoot an email to admin@murphymusicacademy.org to set up a trial lesson with myself or any one of the wonderful private teachers here at Murphy Music Academy. We'll make sure your violin journey gets headed in the right direction. Now for number 3, playing with others. Unless you've played other instruments before, if you're a beginning violin student, there's almost a 100% chance that you don't have a very well-developed ear. Which means even if you try your best, your daily personal practice is really not going to be that effective, at least not for a while. However, if you get the chance to play with more experienced musicians, your ear is going to pick up the differences between your playing and their playing. your tone and their tone, your intonation and their intonation, which will help you develop that ear a lot faster, which means that your personal practice is going to be that much more effective that much sooner. But unless you live with a professional musician, finding someone to play with is easier said than done. Your first option is obviously, of course, your private teacher. If you're a beginning violin student and your teacher isn't playing with you in lessons, then you need to ask them to start doing that immediately. And if they refuse, then maybe you should find another teacher. Another great option is supplemental group classes. Now, not all violin studios offer these, and I would not say that the decision to study with one person over another should be made or broken based on whether or not they offer a supplemental group class. But if you know a good teacher that does offer one, then please take advantage of it. Not only will you get another chance during the week to play with your teacher, but also the chance to play with other violin students, many of whom might be more advanced than you. As I said before, I have my own criticisms of the Suzuki method, but one of the best things about the Suzuki method is its emphasis on group playing. And remember, this is supplemental, not primary. If you can afford it, take advantage of one-on-one lessons and supplemental group classes. Don't think a group class can replace a private lesson. And the last option is technology. Nowadays, there's a lot of apps and websites that can approximate the experience of playing with other people. For instance, an app like TomPlay has a wide variety of recordings that allow you to adjust the tempo so that you can play along with the recording at your own pace. You can also remove the violin part and just play with piano accompaniment. And they even have a really great new feature that will tell you whether or not you're playing the right note. For Black Friday, TomPlay is offering a 40% discount on the yearly subscription for the Murphy Music Academy audience. So use my link in the description to take advantage of the best practice tool since the invention of the metronome. And speaking of that, number 4, learn to follow a metronome. If you didn't already know, a metronome is a little device that keeps a consistent, precise click, measured in beats per minute, or BPM for short. They used to be completely mechanical and look like this, but now you can just get one on your phone. Developing good rhythm is one of the most important parts of becoming a good musician, let alone a good violinist, and learning to follow along with a metronome is an integral part of that. So if you've never done this before, first you must develop an internal beat. To start, take your metronome and put it at 72 BPM. And we're just going to clap along with each click, like this. Now, you want to listen to a few clicks before you start clapping so that you develop a sense of the pulse. Now, if you find yourself struggling with just clapping along to the beat, remember that you need to both anticipate and react to the metronome clicks. If you wait until you hear the click, then it's too late. Good rhythm comes from feeling where the next beat is going to land. However, when you clap, you might find yourself being a little bit off compared to the metronome clicks. Hopefully not so much that anyone else would notice, but enough that it should allow you to recalibrate exactly where you're feeling and anticipating that next click. This is reacting. If you learn how to combine anticipation and reaction, you will have a steady pulse in no time. Once you can do 1 clap per click, then try 2 claps. 3 claps. And maybe even 4. Then, once you have a good sense of pulse and dividing the beat, try playing your music with the metronome. Again, the Suzuki books are great for this because the first music you learn is incredibly rhythmic. Giving you the chance to practice a lot of different rhythms using the exact same notes. Now, last but certainly not least, tip number 5 for beginner violin students is take your time. I cannot stress this enough, but your progress will most likely be slow. Think of violin playing like building muscle. It takes consistency and steady progression over a long period of time to show visible results. And if you try to do too much before you're ready, not only will you not really progress any faster, but you're more likely to injure yourself. Like seriously, violin playing injuries are a thing. However, instead, if you focus on just enjoying the process and just be sure to do a little bit every day, you will likely make more progress than if you just come right out of the gate practicing an hour a day. Consistency, not volume, is the key for beginner violinists. Anyway, if you're a beginner violinist or looking to get into violin, I hope this has helped. And always remember, there is no pleasure in mediocrity. And for those of you that seem to be constantly confused on how that motto applies to beginners, it just means take it seriously and do your best. I've been Tobias Murphy for Murphy Music Academy. Happy practicing, and I'll see you next time.